Let's switch gears into broker fees, transaction fees, broker commission, whatever you want to call them. Starting in 2000, I'll throw 8, maybe 7, I was at a local indie firm called NP Dodge. And while at that firm, they decided to institute a new rule where they needed to keep all their files in an offset location. All the physical files, I think we still have to keep them for like 7 years. And they said they were going to start charging $100 per transaction because they had to help, raise some funds to be able to pay for this offsite location. I don't know if it's a true story, not calling them out, but that's what they told us. So at the point that they told us that, I said, well, what if I charge $200 and I keep the other $100 to cover my overhead expenses, my admin fees, my admin costs, which we all obviously have those. And they said, we don't care. You can charge anything you want over $100 as long as it's justifiable and you treat everybody the same way. So we started charging $200, no problem. People had no issue with it. Anyone that challenges the idea, I say, well, what's the biggest holdup? And I usually find agents are over explaining or they don't think that it's fair. Well, show me a business that doesn't have an admin fee, either literally as a line item or built into the cost of the product sold. Every business does. Even like you go buy a car, there's a transaction fee, a processing fee, whatever you want to call it. And so that's what this is. And my intention when we started charging it was to offset or zero base my admin cost. And we started charging all the way up to $600 on the buy, which is what we charge today at KWElite, our brokerage, and $900 on the sell. Now we've charged all the way up to $999, but we were able to get that cost down a little bit. We're at $900 on the listing, $600 on the buy side. If a team has a full-time admin themselves, they only have to pay the brokerage $300, but they still have to charge the client $6, and then they get to keep the difference, or $9, and then they get to keep the difference. But everybody has to offer what we would call elite services, and it's contract to close. It's true contract to close. So an agent in our world doesn't have to focus on having an admin person that runs with the contract, schedules the closing, schedules the home inspection, schedules the walkthrough, puts the sign in the yard, puts the lockbox on, puts the lockbox off, takes all these extra little steps. They just pay $900 on the listing and $600 on the buy side, and we take care of all of that for them. Now, what's nice is on the buy side, you can have the agent can collect the fee from the buyer of the property. So when someone purchases a home and they ask the seller to cover up to, let's say, $10,000 in closing costs, prepaids, escrows, insurance, and any other allowable expenses, we just write in there broker fee, and then that's just part of the buyer's mortgage. On the sell side, it hurts the seller a little bit more because, of course, they're paying a 5 or 6 or whatever % commission plus the $900, and they'll always ask, well, why is there an additional fee? And we say, well, that additional fee is built in for all the contract to close services. It's part of our value add. And then if they say, well, why doesn't that come with the commission? Then we just say, well, that's not built into the commission. It's a separate fee. And you just stare at them and justify it and believe that the fee is justifiable. And if there's an instance, which happens 2% of the time, where the agent can't collect, then we collect it from the agent. So if the client won't pay it, then the agent pays it. And the agent has no problem paying it because if they weren't paying it, they'd have to hire an admin to do the work anyways. So it's a moot point. So it's a USP, a unique selling proposition, to provide our agents with a full-on admin contract to close support system. And we've taught them, trained them, coached them on how to collect the fee that covers that service. And then, of course, there's a little bit of profit margin built in for the brokerage. And we were able to build in so much profit. We generated over $400,000 net last year, and we've been doing that consistently over the last 5 years, that we were able to offset almost all of our admin positions. Our operations manager, our success manager, of course, our contract to close coordinators, our marketing directors. And so going back to the beginning of the podcast episode today, I shared with you that I was on a stage and I got challenged because I said 70% of our revenue went to agents, 10% went to overhead, and I got to keep net 20. And people that know the business are like, well, how do you only have 10%? Well, there you go. We were able to offset our $10,000 a month marketing expense through creating strategic partnerships, vendor relationships, and having ownership and or joint ventures in ancillary businesses. And then zero base all of our, most of our admin expenses through broker fees, transaction fees, whatever you want to call them, to the tune of about $400,000 a year. So a net total of $500,000, which would obviously increase that overall overhead expense to that 25 to 30% margin. So lots of fun coming up in the month of June, where we're going to dive deep into these 2 main topics to help the teams we coach at Elite Real Estate Systems learn how to zero base their expenses as well and implement the strategies that have proven themselves over the last 10 years to help us scale and dominate the real estate market in the Omaha area and